Welcome everyone to the HB Global Employee Ownership Podcast Series. Today we have a really great conversation about how you never know where your career might take you and Kerrin Musselman's journey from being a plumbing apprentice to now being a division president at IT Landis. As always, we have with us CEO of HB Global, Bob Whalen, and Senior Vice President of People and Culture, Stacy Baum. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. We recognize that this podcast is available to the general public, but we just want to say that the views expressed in it are in the context of HB Global and may not apply to broader audiences. With that, Stacy, take it away.
Thanks, Jamie. So thank you for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit, Kerrin, about your journey from starting your career and how you ended up at IT Landis. So I think that might be a good starting point to kick off today's discussion of when did you join IT Landis, and did you have aspirations of working in the HVAC and plumbing industry at that time?
No, and thank you, Stacy. No, I did not. So I've been working there for 37 years, but I'll take you way back to high school, right? So graduated from high school, and I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And it happened that my parents were friends, acquaintances of the Landises, and actually thought I'd try that. So I applied for a job there, and I was hired. And I started as a plumbing apprentice in the commercial plumbing department. So and then I moved.
Do you remember what your first job was? What job site you were on?
I think I do. I think I did a auto body shop, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Local to Harleysville?
Local, yeah.
Okay.
And I liked it. I liked work with my hands. And so anyway, kind of moved along, and then soon became a job foreman. And then really I was given an opportunity to learn estimating, which turned into project management. And I spent a large part of my career doing that probably 20 plus years. Looking back, that was a big piece of a lot of learning for me. Had a great skill set of foremen working for us, who I learned a lot from, still do today. But yeah, learned estimating, project management. And then, later on, I moved to the head of the plumbing division. Which was residential also. So that added a different challenge, right? Different piece to the job. And then about 10 years ago, we merged with HB McClure. So then, everything changed then. Ton of opportunity came to me with that, and some leadership roles.
Yeah.
And then, so I moved up, and I think into the role I am today as president. I've been in for about 8 years.
Can you talk to us a little bit about IT Landis' structure? So in that first part of your career, or even the 20 years that you were in project management, being a family-owned business, who was leading it? What did that look like?
Yeah. So actually, I'm thinking about 30 employees when I started.
Oh, okay.
And then, so the Landises, Larry Landis, who hired me, was running the company at the time. And then, we'd all come to the shop, which carried on even past our merger. So we'd all meet at the shop. We got our work orders, talked to our bosses, and off we went. And then we returned to the shop. So we would punch in and out every day to the shop. Yeah. And then I ended up working for Mike and Chris Landis, who eventually took over the company.
And they were brothers?
They're brothers, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were pretty close, community, knew most of the people that we worked there. And, some of us were related. And
So how many employees were working for IT Landis when the acquisition was going through? That was 2014?
2014, yeah. So I think it was, I want to say 98, but I'll say 95 to 98 employees. Yeah. and we're probably maybe like 210 right now.
A lot of growth over the last 10 years.
Yeah. So a lot of changes, a lot of growth when Bob came in.
Did you know HB McClure?
No, so
Since I know they're in the Harrisburg area and you're in Harleysville, did you know of the company?
did not know of them. So 6 months before the merger, um, Mike and Chris told me that they were thinking of selling the company, which kind of shocked, to be honest with you. And they wanted me to meet somebody named Bob Whalen, and who they were thinking about selling the company to. So I met Bob, and I was pretty shocked how similar HP McClure was. So they had residential, oil, commercial. We had almost identical business. They were larger than us. So met him, and that went well. And then so 6 months later, um, Bob took over.
What role were you in at the time the company was acquired?
Yeah, so the plumbing and HVAC divisions were separate. So I was heading up the plumbing division at the time. So yeah,
What was the chatter like around the sale? If you were surprised,
yeah,
I bet you weren't the only employee that was surprised.
yeah. So I was definitely a lot of anxiety, not sure what's going on, like what's going to happen to my job
Right.
and all that. But yeah, I give Bob credit for the strategy that he put together. Right. So Bob actually dedicated a whole year of coming down. Actually, drove. Bob didn't live in Harleysville, so he lived an hour and a half away. So he drove to our office every day for a whole year. Looking back on that, I think that was huge for him to do that. We were used to having our president leader in the office who we would see, and that's what he did. That and then I think from the start, Bob's philosophy, he would tell us that, hey, I'm in this for the long haul. I'm not trying to change it in a year or a month and possibly sell it. Like, we're committed to this company. That and then a saying that I kind of took on myself that Bob says today is, we just want to try and get a little better each day, right?
Yeah.
And it's an achievable goal, and I think it resonates with people. And then, if you get a chance like I do to look back, you can really
Yes.
see in 10 years progress you've made.
How about, Kerrin, just not only professionally, how your life has changed over the last 30 plus years? How about personally?
Yes.
You've been through a lot of life changes since your time at IT Landis.
Yeah, no, for sure. From, getting married to two children who both actually worked for the company at one point.
Yeah.
And then actually, both my children are married, and I have two grandchildren. Yeah, and my son-in-law actually works for Bob Whalen at HB Global. And yeah, it's been quite a change.
Wild ride.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bob, how about from your perspective of acquiring IT Landis? How was it different for you than acquiring HB McClure and just the difference in cultures?
Well, first of all, let me piggyback on what Kerrin said about, there was a lot of anxiety and being scared. Well, I was really scared, so it was one thing, to acquire a company in the town that I lived and, with people that I knew and, had seen the trucks running around for my entire life. It was a whole nother step to acquire a company, in the Philadelphia area that we didn't know the owners. And it was, we had done small acquisitions in the oil delivery business before that, but this was really our first real acquisition. And the reality, the amount of financial risk that we took at that time, if I know what I know now, I probably would never have done it, but we did. And we made it work largely because of the people at IT Landis. Because really, we came in to a premise of that mechanical contracting is a local business. And it's a local business that requires the local leaders to be empowered to take responsibility for making that business successful. They can't be looking to corporate to make all the decisions. We really have a philosophy around, radical decentralization, and it focuses, on the local business taking responsibility for itself. In large part, that's why we keep the names. We keep the names really to send the message that this is still the same business that it always was. And what we're trying to do as HB Global or HB Mechanical as an organization is we're just trying to facilitate each business getting a little bit better each day, and that means different things for different businesses. And we've really been for the most part very successful with that philosophy, and the reason is because people like Kerrin take responsibility for the business and take responsibility for the success. And I think that that's why we're successful. If we tried to operate this business from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, well, maybe we could do it a little bit in Harleysville, because I literally can get in the car and be down there at 6:45 in the shop. I can't do that in other areas of the country. It's just not feasible. And so I think that that's a really important part of who we are. And it really started with testing that philosophy at IT Landis. It worked well. We moved on to test it again at Nash P&M, and then accelerated our growth after that for a little while to where we are today.
Kerrin, how long has IT Landis been in business?
It's so 1929, and so I'm not sure that was a good year to start. Like the Depression was. So I think we're around 95, and heading toward 100 in about 5 years. So
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So you talked about getting a little better every day.
Yeah.
What are some things that, when you look back at IT Landis over the last 10 years since they were acquired, or even since you started with 30 employees there, that stand out to you as accomplishments?
Yeah, so I think if I start with the acquisition, so we really were not a growth company. Like we were doing slow growth,
Right.
but really we weren't really a growth company until we merged, and then I would say we expanded quickly. But so with that, right, leadership training, not just like tools, equipment, all that, and people. It's like we didn't really have any leadership training and stuff, which I need leaders of all level.
Yes.
We didn't really have the structure for that, so we had a lot of catching up to do with that, which we're committed to. Not just it's just growing our employees themselves and through the company. So we did, and we're doing a good job. But that's probably a biggest piece that we've done along the way. Like we didn't, with safety, which is evolving, right? So I think we've improved on that. We didn't even have, we didn't have HR. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't have when we merged, which we're getting a lot better at now.
It's great. It's always exciting to be able to see changes for the positive. What about some things that you think you've been able to remain autonomous and actually maintain IT Landis's culture and history?
Yeah. So, so a big part of, so we're one of 9 divisions now, and a big piece is like I have autonomy to run my business, on a daily basis. So basically, I mean, what we found is, so we've tried some different markets, but really, like we've come to like our niche is kind of what we were, the jobs we were doing when we bought us, and now some larger and maybe we were in New Jersey and Delaware, which we weren't before, but really like our core business is very similar to what it was when we merged. Now, bigger, more people, more employees. But really, that's our niche business today. But hey, we're always being challenged to grow that. We started a commercial service business, which we did not have before, which is going well. Our special projects group is excelling, and our construction is doing well too. So yeah, we're on a good path and constantly working on
And you're only commercial work now, right? You
That's
residential
correct.
split off?
Yeah, so it's probably 3 years ago. It was like a strategy of HB Global, right, to break off all residential. It actually moved off our campus. So that's been good for us to concentrate on just commercial. Yeah, it's been a good for us. So
I would point to, that's like kind of one of the decisions that was largely, made at, HB Global is, we decided to, really put our residential businesses together. And so have people that focus, 100% of their time, on the residential business, which allowed Kerrin and also, Adam Smith and Harrisburg to be focused, on the commercial business, which I think, has led to really great things for home services, but it's also allowed our commercial leaders, to be maniacal about focusing on the markets on the commercial side. And I think we've really seen all three of those businesses, improve over the last 3 years because of that focus, on what they do. So we're going to do multiple things within the umbrella of HB Global, but we want our folks, to be really focused, on their area of expertise. And, IT Landis, while they did home services, was really, a commercial business. And so I think it's really freed Kerrin and his whole team up, to focus on those areas. You don't think about all the things that are impacted, by that.
Right.
The warehouse, has to, have inventory from both sides of the business and all that. It's just been really helpful in allowing the businesses to focus, on their areas of expertise.
Kerrin, I think the other thing IT Landis leadership has dove into, you mentioned your service business,
Yeah.
is prefab.
Prefab. Yeah, no, good. I was going to say that too. So we've really just started our prefab in the last 2 years, and I'll tell you, it's been going great. And I just see that headed in just a great direction. I mean, almost all successful mechanicals of our size have a prefab. It's interesting. So it starts with kind of maybe a pushback a little on that. And now it's just like you just can't keep up with it. So that's been very positive. Like you said, the commercial service has been positive. So yeah, I mean, just a ton of opportunity out there.
Bob, what was your message to the IT Landis team when you were purchasing them as HB McClure?
Yeah, honestly, I still remember, walking into their warehouse, a little over 10 years ago now for that very first meeting. And of course, I was nervous as an alley cat, going in there. But really what we sold, told a story, of vision that we were going to create wealth for the employees of IT Landis. And at that point, it really was just a vision because we hadn't done it yet. The stock price was right around $13. We really hadn't accumulated, much wealth for our employees, at the 4-year point of our ESOP. But we sold the employees that this was a company that was going to be focused on creating value for them and also creating a great place to work. And in 2014, that message was built largely on the great place to work we were going to create opportunities for people. And I think we've created, a lot of opportunities for people at IT Landis to move up and take on, more challenging roles. I think about Brian Cobb. I think about, a lot of people at IT Landis that have been able to take on more responsibility because of the growth that business, really produced. But we sold them on a vision that we were going to create value for the employees. And now I'm able to use the IT Landis experience. They've now been part of our company, for 10 years. And when I go and meet with a new acquisition target, I'm not selling a vision of something that hasn't been accomplished. I literally say, hey, we acquired IT Landis in 2014. It's now been part of our company, for 10 years. And this is the median balance in the ESOP of the employees that have been with us for that whole time. And this is how much value is in the ESOP accounts for IT Landis's division. So, I sold to Chris and Mike Landis that we were going to allow them to sell their company, get the liquidity out of the company that they need, but take care of their employees at the same time. And here's the proof that we've created value for those. And it's something that I'm really proud of. It's part of when we have that first meeting with acquisition targets that I get energized about talking about. And because I couldn't be more proud of, shaking, in that first meeting, 10 years ago, and what the team really has produced. And not only at IT Landis, every one of our divisions contribute to that value. And so we've shared what we've created. And I'm really, proud of where we've come over the last 10 years.
That's great.
Good stuff.
Very good stuff. So, Kerrin, from a perspective of working at IT Landis for 20 plus years before the acquisition, were you aspiring to sit in the division president seat?
No, I wasn't. I didn't aspire. I mean, I was always lifelong learner. Like I love to learn new things, and always wanted to move up if the opportunity came. And yeah, so when we merged, Bob, give him credit. And was 3 months in, he kept challenging me on stuff, and I took the opportunity,
Yeah.
and ton of hard work, right?
Yes.
But yeah, no, I didn't, and like I said, I give Bob credit for giving me the opportunity to take on the challenge. But yeah, it's been an exciting run.
And you were part of Bob's original leadership team, is that correct, after the
Yeah.
acquisition?
So, and I give Bob credit too, like right when we merged, so it was just IT Landis and HB McClure, and Bob included me in the leadership group, and I didn't know anyone, and they welcomed me from day one. And made a lot of relationships with that group. And then at the time, the leadership group it was always Bob and HB McClure and myself before there was no global or anything like that. And Bob, was the president of both for, I forget what the time was, until we kind of got the structure in place. So.
You mentioned those relationships that you were building. How has that evolved since now there's 9 divisions and
Yeah, so it's been good. So like I said, I made a ton of relationships with people at HB McClure, which I still have. And then as the divisions we start acquiring, so I don't anymore, but from the next few, like the Nashes, I actually went down and met with them, and Spectrum. But now, obviously we have a larger group. But yeah, so met with them, and then the relationships I have with I call our internal peer group, our division presidents. So that's been huge for me, just to get an honest, right? Like you talk to them on the phone with the problem you have, and if one person doesn't have a solution, somebody in the group has a solution, and you just say in front of the group, like, this is what I'm dealing with, and it's almost answered immediately.
Great.
Their opinion or what direction to take. That's huge, because I think if you don't have that, so like you have to either hire a consultant or trust that somebody's giving you a straight answer on stuff. But so that's been huge for me and for our business.
Any comments, Bob, on?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, first, we didn't really have, when we acquired IT Landis, necessarily a strategy of what we were trying to do, relative to succession. And I think we can everybody in the organization, can thank Kerrin, for the success that he had in that succession. Because what the history of what actually happened at IT Landis is Chris Landis signed on for a period of time, and we knew we had to have a succession. And actually asked Kyle Seaman to move down and take over as division president. Down there, he had just gone through his MBA and was looking, for a challenge. And he did that and found not long after the job, there was aspects of the job that he really wasn't that fond of. And he really liked what we were doing on the acquisition and would rather focus time. And so, he and I together, really decided that Kerrin was going to be our best solution, going forward for leadership. Not only was that important for IT Landis, but Kerrin's success in that transition really started to formulate our view. If we were going to do acquisitions, we had to have a plan for how we were going to have succession for owners. And we really came to the conclusion very quickly that we were not, at least in the short term, we're not going to be in a position where we could produce division presidents from HB Global that we would become known in 2017 or whatever, that we were going to have a plan for leadership. When we acquired a company, in most situations, the owner is looking to exit at some period, not too long of a period of time, and that we had to have that succession within that business coming out. And so, frankly, that is, what it evolved into. Our strategy was to know, what the transition period was for the leader and who was going to take over. And now, over the last, 12 to 24 months, I think we put in a formal succession planning process led by, Stacy at all the divisions, that every division needs to have a plan, for what they're going to do, relative to not only the division presidency, but also the other seats on the senior management team there. But I can go back, to the experimentation that we did with IT Landis that really led to that being the strategy that we wanted to deploy going forward. And Kerrin also mentioned the peer group, the natural peer group that's developed through our acquisitions. Again, this is one of the things that I would point to that wasn't a specific strategy. We acquired so that we could build this peer group of experts that were going to be able to help each other become a little bit better each day, but it's the reality. Right. That's what's happened, and I want to give a lot of credit to the mechanical, group, led by Sal, really formalized this peer group and really got this group to become a cohesive group, and I think, I don't want to put words in Sal's mouth, but he would point to a lot of the success we've had was our ability to get that peer group to really have everybody focus on getting a little bit better, each day. And so we continue to improve as a business. We become more professionalized, as a business, which I think is frankly a stated goal of what we're trying to do. We are trying to get a little bit better each day, that we can learn from each other, and we can't force it. Again, this is one more of those things that you can't force from the top. You got to have the group actually, make it work. And believe me, they also argue about the things, they call, bullshit on stuff that they don't think is going to work in their geography. And sometimes they're right, but sometimes maybe, they weren't open to it at the beginning, but down the road when they haven't found the solution to their problem, then maybe they'll try that. And so, that group is so important, for us just to get a little bit better each day.
Kerrin, how about for you? What has actually kept you at IT Landis all these years?
Yeah, so great question. Yeah, so and I'll say multiple things. So mentioned before, so I'm still really working with same core group. We still work there, and that, which is great. And all the employees, and definitely the relationships that I've built along the way. And I just think everybody, so like Sal's my boss, and the mechanical group, and Bob is just really open to help you if you need it. And so, right, with that, you got to be open and humble, right?
Right.
But if you ask for help or don't understand something, like you'll get the help. And some, it may be difficult for some than others, but that's a big part. Like we're all in this together, and like our mission, right, is to make it a great place to work. And I think we're accomplishing that.
It's a great team aspect for sure.
It is. I think that's what I say on orientations, on our core values, like the team at IT. I think we do that the best. We do, like as a group. So,
Kerrin, I appreciate the discussion today. I really like your story from the aspect of just recognizing opportunity and keeping an open mind to start from the field and have this journey that you've been on for over 35 years is exciting. I hope some of our other field employees that are just starting out see this podcast and think a little bit about, wonder what their future holds. So I know it takes a lot of hard work and you can't do it on your own. You need people around you to help and learn from. So I really have enjoyed this conversation. Is there anything else you wanted to share today, or Bob, you wanted to add?
Well, the one thing I want to add is just to emphasize, Stacy, what you said and how important I think it is that all of our employees realize that there's a career path that can start all the way from apprentice and lead to a division president. And even, Eric Crawford in our organization was the COO for the entire business when he started, from an apprentice out in the field in the residential business. I think it's really important for us to recognize, there's multiple ways to skin the cat. And the School of Hard Knocks is a real school. And you learn, real lessons in that school as you go along. And we recognize that and are proud that, not only do we have traditional executive paths where we have people coming out of college that do different things and, end up being leaders in our company, but we also have folks that started out as apprentices. Probably the business found them more than they found the business at the time, or just needed a paycheck or whatever. But there's a path for people that do the right things, work hard, are smart, are, bring a positive attitude to the workforce, driven, that can lead all the way to where Kerrin is. And it's, I couldn't be more proud of our 10-year association with IT Landis and what Kerrin has done, for the lion's share of that time. One of our more consistent businesses that just has consistently done, the right things. And as Kerrin has said multiple times here today, just gets a little bit better, each day. And I just am so thrilled that we made that acquisition, 10 years ago, even though we did not have the financial wherewithal that we should have been doing it, but we did it. We learned from it. We grew. And now I'm proud to, have spent a decade with Kerrin, working on this business together.
Great. Well, thank you both. It's been really fun to have this conversation and get to hear a little bit more about your journey. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you have questions for future podcasts, please feel free to email them to eopodcast@hb-global.com. See you next time.